Welcome to the lesson, Web Vulnerabilities You Need to Know. After watching this video, you will learn the top 10 most important web vulnerabilities, how they are caused, and how to avoid them. While there are countless web vulnerabilities, you only need to know 10 types of vulnerabilities provided by OWASP. The Open Web Application Security Project, or OWASP, is a nonprofit organization that educates professionals on web security. Every 4 years, OWASP releases a ranking of the top 10 most common web vulnerabilities globally called the OWASP Top 10. In this lesson, you will learn the latest edition of the list, the OWASP Top 10 2021. Let's get started. Ranking number 1, with 94% of web applications having it in 2021, broken access control occurs when a system fails to properly restrict users' activities, allowing them to access or perform functions outside of their permitted boundaries. To avoid broken access control, ensure that authentication and authorization are properly configured and access controls are implemented consistently and tested throughout your application. In web applications, it is crucial that applications use robust authentication and authorization through cookies and JSON web tokens. Next is cryptographic failures, which occurs when a web service fails to encrypt sensitive information leading to data exposure or system compromise. This can happen if organizations are unaware of what information needs to be encrypted, if they use outdated encryption algorithms, or through TLS downgrade attacks where hackers strip away the encryption between a network connection. To prevent this, consistently check what information qualifies as sensitive according to privacy laws, and make sure your resources use effective and widely used encryption standards and libraries. Ranking third is injection, where hackers enter code into an application that causes its service to shut down or expose sensitive information. One example is SQL injection, where a hacker purposely enters a SQL query into a text input, causing it to run database queries that expose private information. To avoid injection flaws, use query handler libraries in your server to handle sanitizing user inputs and incorporate character limits and input limits for users. Ranking fourth is insecure design, which is a vulnerability caused by logistical flaws to an application's architecture. An example would be a movie ticket website that allows users to book all seats in a theater, preventing the service from functioning correctly. Prevent this vulnerability by following a secure development lifecycle, verifying that each app component goes through unit and integration testing. Ranking fifth, security misconfiguration happens when apps are configured to expose private log messages, grant users escalated privileges, or use unnecessary ports and routes in a web application. On the web, such misconfigurations can allow hackers to do broken access control or code injection to exploit the application. To avoid this, use configuration scanning resources such as SNCC to find misconfiguration, and practice implementing headers such as CSP, CORS, and HSTS. Ranking sixth, using vulnerable and outdated components can lead to unpatched vulnerabilities in a web application. To avoid this, use widely recognized packages that are required for your application, keep them up to date, and frequently check resources such as CVE and NIST to stay up to date on the latest package vulnerabilities. Ranking 7th, identification and authentication failures can escalate to other vulnerabilities in this ranking. To address this, implement multi-factor authentication and robust session management controls, such as JSON web tokens and session tokens. Ranking 8th, software and data integrity failures relate to flaws in infrastructure updates through CI/CD pipelines. An example of this is using a misconfigured CI/CD pipeline that allows a hacker to make changes to the pipeline. To avoid this issue, ensure the integrity of software, data, and pipelines through digital signatures. Ranking 9th is security logging and monitoring failures. This vulnerability is an internal issue where a lack of logging and alerting can lead to wasteful resource usage, unaware data breaches, and extra effort for threat recovering. To prevent this, implement proper logging in the entire software architecture and consider using a cloud logging service such as Mesmo or Datadog. Lastly, server-side request forgery is a type of vulnerability where an attacker can make an application server send malicious HTTP requests. This involves an attacker being able to send a forged HTTP request to a web application, which then the server runs. To protect against SSRF, validate or sanitize user-supplied input and implement firewall rules to limit what your web service can do. In this video, you learned what OWASP and the OWASP Top 10 are, how they are caused, and how they can be avoided.